all set to call the Bucks Magic game when all of this went down. Take us through what happened from your perspective.
First of all, thank you for having me. It was one of those days. I mean, it was business as usual. Kind of early on, we usually just have a 10 a.m. production meeting, with a lot of the production crew, producers, on-air talent, and nothing really different. A little bit later, we had a conference call at 11 o'clock with Mike Budenholzer, kind of talking about the game plan and adjustments, kind of what we normally do. And typically, right around, I don't know, depending on what the next coach has to do as far as the Zoom interview, we get over to our, where the arena is at, but then we have a green room that's all set up where all the production crews and trucks are at. And we had a 2 o'clock call with Steve Clifford to kind of discuss the same thing about the game. Now, as we got closer to about 3 o'clock to head over to the arena where we were calling the game, we had a 3:15 hit on NBA TV. And we heard some rumblings that maybe the Toronto Raptors were thinking about, maybe boycotting and not playing. But it really didn't have a lot of meat to it because we were just trying to figure things out. But when we get to the arena, the Orlando Magic players are out on the court, kind of going through their pregame routine. You saw some Milwaukee Bucks players, a couple coaches, as they were going. Giannis was out there. So, we really didn't put a lot of credence to what we heard in regards to Toronto Raptors, but we did see something in particular where an NBA official from the office kind of pulled the official crew, the referee crew, to the side and kind of talked to him on the side, somewhat near half court, which was kind of odd, but we still didn't put things together. And as the game clock continued to wind down and Orlando went in the locker room for their last meeting, they came back out, started their pregame warm-up. We noticed that the Milwaukee Bucks haven't done the same thing. And as time continued to elapse and the shot clock eventually got down to 0-0, the buzzer went off, no Milwaukee Bucks. And at that point, we got word from inside the locker room that the Bucks had chose to boycott the game, and then later had spoken with the Orlando Magic so they would do the same. So it was, it wasn't like you had a lot of signs that gave you an indication that this was going down, that this was going to happen.
Right.
I think the surprise element is kind of what maybe they wanted. I think the conversation had started the night before, and from there it kind of just fed into what we saw that afternoon and then later that evening with the remaining teams that were scheduled to play.
Jimmy, I got to ask you a personal question. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm blessed, Nick. I'm blessed with the opportunity throughout the pandemic and what America's been going through to still be able to provide for my family, which a lot of people don't. So I always try to keep that in perspective, okay? Because, a lot of people can complain in our position about things that are not right, but at the same time, we have the wherewithal to try to continue to live a normal life compared to people who have lost their jobs, compared to people who lost their businesses. They don't know what's going to happen the next hour, let alone the next day, how they're going to take care of their family. But personally, I'm torn because I have a older son who's 27 years old. I have a young son who's 2 years old. And I think about a lot of the things that have happened, not only currently in our history in the United States, but the things that have transpired in the past that have kind of led us to this boiling point we're at. And you really have to understand history, not only history of America, but of the world, to kind of get a grasp around why we're here where we're at in regards to race relations. And I talk to my son, my older one, all the time about understanding your place in where you're at as a young African-American man. And we have these deep conversations about expectations, about rules, about how you're viewed. I think education is a big part of how you can navigate through life. So, Nick, right now, man, I'm proud of the NBA players for taking a stance. Very proud of it. And I can't wait to see what the next step is.
Jim, you're from Toledo, Ohio. Played 14 years in the NBA. Been super successful. I've always said that this is counterculture to the athlete to not play ball because we use the court, we use the field as our escape. I used to call the football field my sanctuary. So how significant is this for the player not to play?
Well, it's significant from this perspective is that a lot of times with players in this situation, it's tough to get a majority rule where you agree on something, whether that's in the NFL with a strike, NBA with a lockout, baseball with a strike, because a lot of people have different agendas. A lot of people have different, issues that they may have to deal with. They have a different thoughts and perspectives. But right here, especially in the NBA and as a basketball player, we're asking for, things to happen in the United States in regards to racial equality. We're asking for it. We kind of putting our voices behind it, the basketball players, putting our money behind it, but yet action is still not taking place. And at some point, is it the game of basketball or is it the game of life? Are we going to stand on our principles and talk about what's important and still go play a game and try to let someone else in a position that we think have power to try to help affect change? And what the players were able to do, with the boycott is send the message that the game of basketball is secondary to the game of life. And within that, Brandon, you understand this. We go through a lot of ridicule as athletes. Now I'm a broadcaster. Well, you made the money. America has been great to you. Yes, that's true. But that doesn't discount the fact of what me as a black man have been through the course of my life that has shaped and formed my opinions on what's going on in America. Me as a black man, yes, I've been able to make it out my neighborhood. I've been able to make a significant amount of money. But if I, as a successful black man, do not give back to my community, if I, as a successful black man, don't listen to the streets and understand what's going on and try to be a voice and try to help, then what's the purpose? Because the game of basketball is going to come and go. Somebody else is going to wear that jersey, okay? But if I can help affect change, and that's what these young men are doing right now in the NBA and across sports, if I can do that, then I'm giving something more than just entertainment. I'm adding value to someone's life. I'm giving a voice to those like Chris Webber talked about that are marginalized, because we do have a platform, and I do think it's upon us to use. Not everybody can do it, and I get it. But those that can should lend their voice, and that's what we're seeing.
Jim, thanks for joining us. You've been excellent. I have one more question. Do you think it's appropriate for the season to continue?
Well, that's it. And personally, let's back up. From the beginning, when the bubble first took place and it was an announcement about what was going on, and the conversation was, will it distract and take away from the movement, take away from the message of racial equality, social justice? And I thought that the bubble was a great opportunity for the players to be able to have the platform to continue the narrative and push their notion or their narrative of social justice and what they needed to do, because you're at practice. The camera is in front of you. After games, the camera is in front of you. Private interviews, the messaging was always there, was always out front. Right now with this move, and again, the players had a meeting last night. The Board of Governors have a meeting later this morning. The players sent demands that they want to see with the ownership to have more input, in particular in their community.